Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. How's things going tonight, everyone?
Good.
Sounds like
Fair
you're
for
having a
me.
party.
Yeah, my kid is upset because he wants to come hang out with me.
Duh.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can. And we're live.
Technical difficulty over here.
Gotta love it. So, how's everybody been?
Good.
Well, I ordered some parts for my computers for everyday use. We won't need to get onto that because this is not a tech show. But just been working and doing what I always do. Doing some brass prep. But we'll get into that when you're ready. How about you, Jason? How you been?
I've been doing well.
Sharenda, how you doing, dear?
Well, I'll be doing better as soon as I can find a pen. The hell?
Did you ever figure out how to get your iPro to stop jumping up and down?
Mine?
Yeah, your iPro.
Oh, I don't have a iPad.
iPro.
Did you say iPad or
iPro.
iPro?
Remember the video you put up in the...
Oh, I did that on purpose.
I know that. Made me dizzy. Made me dizzy. I've done that for real life. But your eye protection doesn't have a correction in it. So probably didn't bother you as much as it did me.
It doesn't. I figured it'd be an annoying reminder to leave your eye protection on.
I got that. How about you, Mikey? How you been doing?
Surviving. Still trying to get better.
At least you're not coughing like you were.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was. So what's everybody been up to in regards to firearms and reloading?
I'll be going to my last wedding of the year this weekend, hopefully. I'm so sick of everybody getting married. They're just going to end up divorced in a few years anyway. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud?
As long as they don't wind up shooting each other, right? At the wedding.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going to a shotgun wedding if they had some shooting at the wedding. Not at each other or people, but then I would enjoy them more.
Yeah, like a turkey shoot.
Oh, I forgot to log on to the other computer.
Oh, that one. I thought it was your older boy, Travis.
Oh, look at the future reloader of America. He's a cutie. Oh, I take it back. You're handsome, not cute.
Now we know why Travis is staying muted. Anyway. No, the only thing I did was today I had a Glock 22 in my hands, Gen 4 Detroit, Jason. It feels smaller. You know, when I wrap my hand around it, I think the guy might have even had the smaller backstrap on it. I don't know. I didn't ask. I wasn't comfortable where I was, but anyway, I had it on, and it's like he had ammo and everything. And I didn't want to do any shooting. Didn't have any ear pro. All that mess. And no, because Jason and I both have a Glock 22. But anyway, then I did something Sunday. I don't remember what it was. Oh, I went visiting somebody over in Willow Spring, North Carolina. We had quite a conversation about guns and going shooting in various ranges we've been to and so on and so forth. And he wound up giving me 100 rounds of 40 brass. That's nice. Then finished up another coffee can of 308 brass. It's kind of funny. I don't have an AR-10. and I don't intend on getting one, but I probably got 2,500 rounds, 2,500 rounds, maybe 3,500 rounds of a 308 brass. I intend to reload it all through a bolt gun, unload it to a bolt gun. 100 rounds a day on a 308 bolt gun, that's a lot of ammo. But anyway.
I went sporting clay shooting with the judge. That was interesting. That was actually quite fun. I wouldn't mind doing that again.
With the Taurus judge,
Yep.
did you do well?
Well, I only took 2 shots, and the first one I missed. The second one I hit it, and I was like, I'll probably never do that again. We're just gonna end it where it looks like I knew what I was doing.
I've been known to do the same thing.
And then we were freaking people out because we actually had a handgun on the course. So I was like, well, somebody's gonna go tell on us, and they did, but they didn't realize we were shooting 410.
That'd be interesting. Shooting 410. That's an expert's gun.
What, the Taurus?
No, the caliber.
Oh,
Because you're shooting such a small charge of shot, you have to be dead on target, and you have to be quite proficient at shooting. And then to add the handicap of a handgun with it, wow.
now you see why I ended it where I did.
I do, ma'am. I do.
Heck, even I was shocked. Everybody was like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, when I couldn't see it, I figured now.
Good idea. I did the same thing a few years ago with my 357. 4 shots at a steel target, or 6 shots at a steel target. I fired 4 times, clang, 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 and quit. I knew 5 and 6 was going to miss.
Yeah.
I knew it. So I just quit. I said, I'm done. Why are you quitting now? Because I know I'll miss. Oh, well.
There we go. Well, let me make sure I got my sound off on YouTube.
Jason?
Yep. That gets quite confusing because there's about a 7 or 8 second delay over on YouTube. Jason, did you do anything in Guns and Reloading this week?
Had a neighbor stop by and bring me a box of brass, a lot of 38 special brass, and there were some projectiles in there. I didn't pay attention. I know there were 38. I just don't know weight or anything about them. But he found them at a yard sale somewhere and made a guy some trade, and then he brought them straight over to me.
So what's it going to cost you on the long run?
Well, he hinted at some 9mm. He needs a little 9mm, so I might pass him on a few. But I gave him a boat and a trailer a couple of years ago, so it's not like I owe him.
Oh, dang. I live in the wrong part of the country. You guys are giving away boats and trailers.
Well, it wasn't a nice one. It needed some work, but it worked. And then my buddy Chris Sharp, jerk, sent me another article on 300 PRC. So he keeps pushing me and nudging me to buy another rifle. So that might happen.
Well, we could nudge Chris in the same direction. It's like, look, Chris, you need to set a good example for Jason and the rest of the reloading groups that you're in.
That's true.
Turnabout's fair play, right, Chris? Oh, wait, Chris is not on the show. I guess you call that a shout out, right, Jason?
Yep. He is listening.
I am going to get a bird finger out of that one. Mikey, are you fit to talk? If you are, it's your turn, bud.
I had a wedding over the weekend, and then the boys had the open house at the fire station on Sunday, so I didn't have time for squat. So I was going to go shooting Saturday morning, but woke up Saturday morning and had 15 to 20 mile an hour winds with gusting to 50. So no.
Yeah, that's not comfortable. No, when you got wind like that, about the only thing you can do is shoot handgun at 10 paces.
Yeah, I didn't feel like shooting handgun because I wanted to play with the magneto speed versus the lab radar. So that wasn't an option.
Yep. No, you can't clip a magneto speed onto the bottom of your 40.
Another throw. Hi, Travis. Can you hear us now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Did you say something? I didn't hear anything.
I hate you all.
Yeah, we know, Travis. That's why we hate you back.
That doesn't include
Yeah,
you, Jason. I like you.
You aren't very choosy, I'll tell you that right now. Jason's muted anyway.
Just wait till you meet me in person.
Hey, Jason, did you hear the good news about Phil and his truck?
No, what's up with this truck?
Oh.
Well, apparently his truck is out of commission because a squirrel destroyed it. It is no longer operable because of a squirrel.
You mean his truck couldn't survive the attack of a super squirrel or a secret squirrel?
Oh, just a regular old squirrel, Jim. If it was a super squirrel, I could see that. But apparently, a squirrel decided to eat his wiring harness on his truck. His truck.
Jeez, oh Pete's. Guys, what do you think about that? The guy buys himself a fairly good shaped used truck that won't cross puddles, and then he gets his wiring destroyed by a squirrel. I don't know. I think maybe he might have bought into the wrong investment or something. That would be Jason.
Somebody
smoke
posed
detector in
the statement that somebody needs to replace their smoke alarm battery. That would be me.
Yeah.
My arms
Oh.
are too short.
Dang it, I hate it when that happens. Flashback to Jeremy days.
Yeah,
Jeremy always had one that chirped.
yeah.
Well, they're up on the
Just about every
ceiling. And they
episode he
can't
was on.
reach 'em.
Poor guy needs a 10-foot step ladder to reach an 8-foot ceiling.
Yep.
He's that
Tough.
short.
That's tough.
Well, sometimes you hear my wife's bird chirping in the background too.
So I don't know if
Last
you
time
guys.
I changed it, the whole thing fell down. So I was not taking the chances this time.
I don't know if you guys went through what you did in guns and reloading this week, but I see somebody on this panel has got a case gauge that they've been using to check some of their 9mm. Is that a new toy you got?
You're talking about me? No, it's the original one I bought, but I'm telling you, gauging every single round with one single case gauge is starting to be an insert beep.
So let's just say you do 100 rounds and you check every one. How many do you find don't fit that case gauge?
Actually, on average, about 3, sometimes 4.
And have you
Wow.
checked to see if those actually chamber?
Not yet. I have a little pile so far since I've been reloading. So far, I have about maybe 20.
Sharenda, do you know how to field strip your handgun? It's not an insult. It's meant as a serious question.
No, yeah,
You know,
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, do you know what? Then you know what the plunk test is, right?
Uh huh.
Okay, that's what Travis is getting at. Is he wants you he's recommending that you open that gun up and start dropping those cases, that loaded ammo in your barrel, and see if it fits.
It's
'Cause
on my
case
list,
gauges.
but I'm getting old and keep forgetting to do that.
No, you're one of the younger ones on this panel. But anyway, yeah, that's what Travis is trying to tell you or suggest to you.
Well, because I don't case gauge. So I've got a Dillon 1050 with an auto drive. So I'm really cranking out the rounds on that. I don't check every one, but I occasionally will pull one off and check it. So I was just curious if you were checking every one or if you kind of pulled one off randomly and checked it.
No, I
So-
check every one because I usually only load about 400 at a time when I do it because that's all the time I have. So it's not that much of a effort.
Who makes that case gauge?
That's a Dillon one.
And you're using Dillon dice?
Yep, Dillon dies.
Yeah, let us know if those ones that don't go in your case gauge actually chamber.
Okay, I'll actually let you know tomorrow because the Tiffany Blue rounds, I'm gonna go test those out tomorrow.
Good. Good. We'd like to know if they do plunk test or fit in there. Even if they fire, it passes a plunk test. Of course, if it doesn't go into battery, it doesn't pass a plunk test.
Yep. I got zombie green ones in the mail today, so I'm anxious to load those.
Well, the next thing you know, we're going to be having Halloween black and Halloween orange.
Should I admit I already have those?
You're
Only
already
if
on
you
that
do.
on that pumpkin spice kick, huh?
Oh gosh, no. Pumpkin should be 8, not drink. Ugh, I think that drink's the grossest drink ever.
I didn't think it's that bad. Anyway,
So did you guys see where Chris Sharp was talking about his goal is to buy 24 new rifles this year and 16 handguns, and he's going to slip it by his wife without her knowing? How do you suppose he's going to do that?
Like, when did he start, or is he talking about doing that between now and the end of the year?
that would be a rifle and
Yeah.
handgun every 7-8 days.
That's amazing,
Jeez.
Chris Sharp. More power
Yes,
to
sir.
you.
Yep. Big money, big money, big money. Jason, you are despicable.
Well,
Nailed you.
I'm not saying I'm all for the separate bank accounts, but I'm definitely for separate his and her safes. That way you can always, it's in the safe. It was in the safe.
Check out the chat on YouTube.
So, see, sure, you're under the right idea. You have a safe. He has a safe. And
Exactly.
No, and then he doesn't go in your safe. And you don't go in his safe. It's a beautiful
Nope.
thing because
I don't need to go in his. I have better crap than he does.
there you go. Now you're thinking. The only
There
time
you
my
go.
wife sees the safe is if I'm opening it when she's around, and she doesn't know what's in there, so it don't matter.
You're welcome, Chris.
Ah, sucker. So before we roll off to the cartridge corner, we're going to answer a question that Fat Elvis asked in the chat. And it says, do you guys use faster burning powder for use in short barrels, or does it matter?
So in my 300 Blackout, it's a 10-inch barrel. I use H110. That's pretty fast burning powder. No, sorry, that's actually a slow burning powder.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say, Jason?
For myself, I actually wouldn't even bother. I just use whatever I use. I wouldn't change it up. If I was really going to get picky with it, then yeah, I'd go with a faster.
Yeah, I'd have to pull out my book. I was thinking the H110 was a fast burning powder, but it's not. But I know there is a lot of people say they do prefer fast burning powder in a short barrel because it keeps their keeps everything a little bit cleaner, and then they don't. Sometimes your powder doesn't get all burnt up in that short of a span. I guess it depends on how short of a barrel we're talking too.
And what type of cartridge. So, honestly, it goes to, well, he just brought up a point. H110 is slow for handgun powder, but fast for rifle. So there's that too. So, but the thing you got to take into consideration is what you're trying to do.
Yep.
What's the point of the load? So, that's one of my projects. Once I finally get the rest of my parts to build my, finish my AR pistol, I have a 10.5 inch. And so I'm going to play around and see what the differences are. Matt from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns did some testing with H110 in different length barrels to see how much speed you dropped and stuff like that. But I don't know of anybody off the top of my head that's really spent some serious time playing around with different powders. So part of it, you're going to be limited. If you're sticking to book data, you're going to be kind of limited in what you're doing there by that. So, I mean, if you really want to start playing, then, sky's the limit. Ultimately, I guess it depends on how much powder you want to send into the air burning. It's basically what it boils down to.
I've used IMR 4227 in 38 special and 357. They wound up having to clean the floor immediately after I got done shooting. That's about as slow a handgun powder as you can get. That was out of 357 and 38. Most of the powder, I'd say, didn't burn. Well, at least we'll just say 20%. I don't think burned. That's unacceptable. That's just IMR 4227 is a very, very fast powder for long guns, but slow for handguns. But the point is, I think I would use that again. If I use that again, I'd be in my contender with a 14-inch barrel, sealed chamber, or my Marlin 1894C in 357. Slow burning powders, long rifles, long barrels. Yeah, yes, Fat Elvis, it makes quite a difference. There's only two ways you can legally, I use that in my head, that term. There's only two ways you can correctly get velocity, gain velocity. One of them is to use a longer barrel. The second way is to use a slower powder. I see your comment, Fat Elvis. It's a good point. 4227 is good and 357 maximum. But right there, right off the bat, you're starting with a much longer chamber. You're at least 3/8 of an inch, 3/10 of an inch longer chamber. Again, that just lends credence to what I said. Slower powder, longer barrel. And Sean Johnson. Yes, I have a suppressor. No, I haven't used it yet. And yes, I load 308.
No, he was asking me about that because I was talking about my handgun AR. So how the newest one I could find with a date was from 2017 from Hodgdon. And they go fastest to slowest. The fastest is the Norma R1. Slowest is the Vitivo 20N29. That's 1 to 150. They just literally numbered them. So they don't give any sort of qualifier on what's faster or not. Give you an idea, Hodgdon 110 is at 65. IMR 4227 is at 67. So really not all that's lower than 110. And in between the two is Winchester 296. So,
Well, you and I, we both know that H110 and WW296 are reputed to be the same powder.
yeah, they're right next to each other in the chart. So, gee, 148 on the list is Hodgdon 50 BMG. I wonder why. So, but I'm just kind of looking at some of the powders, the slower ones, and there's some of the ones that I was looking at for loading that 257 Weatherby. So, like IMR 7828, 7977, Rotumbo, you know, a lot slower burning powder that you would use in some of them big booming magnums. So some of your faster powders are going to be your shotgun powders. So your Tightwad, your Red Dot, your Ramshot Competition, your Clays, your Alliant Clay Dot, Bullseye, High Score 700X, Tight Group, Green Dot. Unique actually is 32.
It's not a slow burning handgun powder.
It's
What's it about 45, Mike?
32. 45
Really?
is Hodgdon CFE pistol. So,
Well, it's in the top third then, or top 20%.
yeah. So if you're looking for a slower burning shot shell powder, go with this one. That one is number 52 on the list.
I've used that in handgun powder. I had good results.
Yeah, it makes a good handgun. Also, that's why I picked it up.
Yeah, it's real good in a 357 44 Magnum. Jason would do well with it in his 500 if he ever got around to shooting it again. Jason, you have a black cat. He's sitting on your shoulder, it looks like, over your right shoulder. Yep. Beautiful critter.
Hey, Mike, where is accurate number 2 on that chart? Just curious.
Look, there's a second unicorn on my screen.
Oh, that the missus?
Yep.
Tell her we said hi.
They said hello.
26th, Travis.
And you said Unique was 35?
32. Hodgdon Universal was 33. Jim, one of your favorite powders is about in the middle.
What, RL22?
No. Hodgdon 4895.
I like
Number 89.
IMR 4895.
Oh, you like the IMR better?
Yeah, I've not used the H4895, but it's my understanding they're very close in burn rate.
Well, let's see where the IMR one is.
Got to be right around that
91.
H. And the H powder,
H is 89.
right there, right up against each other.
So, but when you're looking for powders, it's kind of fun to sit there and look at the chart. And the nice thing I like about this is they break their powders out in color. So you've got all the Hodgdons are blue, the IMRs are standard IMRs are red, The Winchesters standard IMRs are yellow. The Winchesters are all red. And then the Enduron line, which is their newer temperature insensitive powders, are all in green. So when you're looking, you can kind of see. So say if you like IMR 4064, but you want to go with an Enduron powder, you've got IMR 4166 is just a step faster. So,
Mike, could you tell us and the listeners one more time where you found this updated burn chart list?
well, I don't know how updated this one is. I just Googled burn rate chart.
Oh, okay.
So I suspect that Hodgdon probably has it on their website. And they may even have a newer one.
We should do a show one time. This is real handy for a reloader to look at these charts. Let's say you use one of your favorite powders, you go to the store and it's out. You could pull up this burn rate chart and see what was right next to it and make a decision if you wanted to try that powder or one right above, figure out where you're sitting and actually try out different powders.
Yeah, that's true, Travis. You can make comparisons and make decisions, but you can't rely on using H110 versus 296 unless it's been confirmed that you have the same data will work.
Yeah,
Whether
I'm not saying
Tango
use
or
the same. Yeah, you wouldn't want to use the same load data for said powder you were using for the substitute powder. No,
Yep. That's a
But
recipe for disaster.
but it is nice to be able to see what else is available for you.
I agree. Yeah, you could, as long as you have the data in your reloading manual, recipe book, then you're good to go for trying
Yeah,
it out.
I know when I first started reloading, our local store doesn't really carry a whole lot of reloading supplies. And, I would get stuck on the one powder and that's all I used. So when I went to the store, if they were out, I was kind of just out of luck. Whereas I could have pulled up on my phone or something, a reloading manual and seen what other substitutions I could have used, or could have pulled up this burn chart and seen if anything was close enough to what I was using or wanting, and could have picked that up. Sometimes we get stuck in our ways and we don't think outside the box sometimes.
Why, Travis, are you taking me to task over the fact that I won't try throwing Skittles through my handgun again?
No, I'm over that, Jim.
Look at Sharenda grinning. Don't you start on me either, girl.
Well, I have
Yeah.
some Skittles over here, so
I know. You enjoy.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
She's in the know. Trenda, you ever thought about casting and powder coating your own projectiles?
I have, but I live in an apartment, so they may frown upon that.
Yeah, especially when you leave burn marks in the carpeting.
Yeah, actually, that might be an improvement. But that stuff's nasty.
So I'm
Somebody
going to
did.
include I found out where it is on the website, so I'm going to include that in the show notes. So they figure out where the questions went. Yay. Okay, so and they've got some other good information here. Shot shell bushing charts for the 4 big common ones. European cartridge loading data. Reduced rifle loads with H4895 and Trail Boss. Reduced recoil shot shell loads. Lead-free bullet data. So kind of some cool things that you may not always come across, but you find when you dig deeper. So, okay. So, tonight for the cartridge corner, we're going to go hang out with Roy Weatherby and take a look at what some people think of as his by far and away best cartridge ever. So way back in 1943, Roy Weatherby had a need for speed. And everything that was out there wasn't fast enough. And so just like Ackley did a few years before, Roy started playing. And he started coming up with different designs based off of different cartridges that were existing by playing around with shoulders and flaring it out so it was the same width from the shoulder to the rim. Just all sorts of different things, figuring out ways to pack more powder. So his first three, I know you've heard them all: 257, 270, and 7 millimeter Weatherby Magnum cartridges. They're all based off of a same length, which is a 2.545 length case. So that's what he started with. And that case that he started with, was a shortened 300 H&H Magnum. Then it was blown out to reduce the body taper and increase capacity. So that's what I was talking about, where it's the same width or same diameter from the rim to the shoulder. So instead of tapered like most of your cases are nowadays, and most of them you never see the taper on. Like if you take a look at a 9, it's got a gradual taper, but you never see it by looking at it. Same with a 223. Some of your Magnum cartridges, you can kind of see a taper, but you're not going to really visually see them. So a lot of the work that he did, your average person didn't realize until they got out their calipers. But Roy's big thing was speed, and Weatherby still today is speed. And so as opposed to 300 or, into your bigger cartridges, his idea was move it faster, generate more energy. One of the advantages of being faster, it's less travel time. So less time in the air to hit things, less time in the air to be pushed off course. There's literally hundreds of reasons why the less time your projectile's in the air before it hits the target is a good thing. So, because until they make drivable bullets, once you pull the trigger and it jumps out the barrel, your part of the episode's over. You just wait till it hits. So, but Roy was a firm believer in fast. And so 270, like the rest of his cartridges he came up with, have a double radius shoulder. He wanted to take the common cartridge of the day, which was the 270 Winchester, and kill it. Never did, but he definitely succeeded in getting a lot more speed. So with the speed came the energy, which is what he was desired. Basically, 270 Weatherby has 25% more powder capacity than a 270 Winchester. And the closest ballistic competitor is Remington 7 mag. Not the 7 Ultra, just the 7 mag. So kind of gives you an idea of what he was trying to go for. Usually 130 to 150 grain bullets, high shock for fast killing out to about 325 yards. After that, it's just normal wounding to about 450.
Mike, in real time numbers, how much faster is the Weatherby over the 270?
That's the short. We don't want the short. Okay. So we're going to do apples to apples. This is out of Sierra's 5th, just so everybody knows. Let's see if we can get the same powder. Okay, so IMR 4350 in both. To achieve the maximum speed of 2,900 feet per second that the 270 Winchester gets, you use 52.4 grains of powder. That is 2,800 foot-pounds of energy. So now we step over to the same 150 grain Sierra boat tail, and we start with 57.1 grains at 2,700 feet per second, and pump that bad boy all the way up to 64.7 grains, moving that puppy 3,100 feet per second, generating 3,200 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle.
25% more powder to get 200 more feet per second.
Yep.
Thank you.
At the muzzle.
Understood.
And as most people know who do any testing, just because it's not as much distance at the muzzle doesn't necessarily mean squat. Most of your reloading manuals don't list, 100, 200, 300. I could take and look up, comparable ammunition between the two and get you that data, but we've got other things we want to talk about tonight. So they talk about the 130 grain. A problem with the 130 grain interlock is it's not really a good projectile to push that fast. They tend to blow up. So instead of punching through the skin and then doing damage internally, they tend to powder like a frangible when it hits the skin, and so you don't get any deep wound penetration, which is what you want for hunting. So what they found is you're going to need different bullet constructions. So like the 130 grain TSX, which is a solid projectile, this is kind of giving you an idea that just because you're pushing something faster doesn't mean you can do it the same way. You have to switch and make sure that you're using the correct tools for the job. So, they're just talking about different things with hand loading, some of the better powders. And different options that you can do, some of the better bullet designs. That'll all be in the show notes. So let's see here if our friends over at Ballistic Studies have any information. So they don't really go into the drop and etc. They talk about suggested sight settings and bullet pass. They talk about ballistic coefficients and sectional densities. Everything they tested was all on a 26-inch barrel, which is, one of your standard hunting barrels, honestly, when you're actually going to spend some money on a rifle. I mean, if you're buying some of the basic stuff, you're probably going to wind up with a 24. But if you go out of your way to actually put some effort into finding a decent hunting rifle, most of them are 26, and most of them are not a pencil profile. They're either a decent normal, or they're going to be like a heavy barrel or thick barrel, or bull barrel, depending on what brand you're buying, they use different terminology because everybody tries to trademark that stuff. So, one of the things that's become a shiny example for this one is the 160 grain as it's come out. 160 grain bullets really shined in this cartridge. A lot better performance with that than they did out of the 270 Winchester. So that's kind of the one big thing there. I do want to thank Ballistic Studies for information. I also got some information out of the Sierra book. So, it's nice to have different sources for information. So Sierra heavily recommends the Federal 215 Magnum primers. Primer was actually, according to what Sierra's got here, that primer was actually designed for use in the Weatherby cartridges. And here's a tip for those of you who are using belted cartridges like this one. Best case life and accuracy will result when the brass is sized no more than necessary for easy chambering. So, kind of a basic premise throughout reloading is work your brass as little as possible. So, all right. Fat Elvis has a couple of follow-up questions. One of which he wants to know about RCBS's brand new powder dispenser. Reviews I've seen aren't that fabulous for it, gang. They still got to do some tricks and tweaks to it to get it to throw the charge nice. And it's not necessarily, the reviews I've seen on it is it's not necessarily any faster or any more accurate than their current crop. So that's the initial reviews. I haven't seen anybody that's actually done a side-by-side test. I know there's better powder charge, there are better power throwers out there, and there's better scales out there. So it's kind of, how you want to do with it. So kind of one of those important questions is improving your accuracy and measuring from 1/10 of a grain to a 4/100ths of a grain worth an extra 650, especially if you're shooting closer to 1,000 yards. Probably not, especially if you're not shooting bench rest. So Fat Elvis wants to know about why the belt on Magnums. Well, their pants wouldn't stay up, so they had to do something to keep the pants on because, at this time that you really needed to have pants on and got to be properly dressed. So
That was lame and weak.
Well, yes, it was, but it worked.
Well,
So what's the real reason, Jim?
to be honest, I have read it and I don't remember what the reason was. But I do know that the belt is for, nowadays, it's supposed to be used for headspace. That's what it was. It was designed to supposedly increase the strength of the case because of the higher pressure and increase the strength of the casing at the head of the case. And the extra belt would supposedly do that. Plus two, they decided to use that belt for headspace. That's what I'm saying, that instead of going up on the shoulder to set the cartridge headspace like they do on this old 222 case, up on that tapered shoulder, they have a belt around the head of the case down here, and that's where they set the headspace in the gun. The rest of it could literally be straight wall and doesn't matter. But that's why the belt came about. That was back in the days of the 300 H&H or 375 H&H case. That's a good question, Elvis. Not many people know that. Go ahead, Mike.
All right. So when we're talking about belted Magnums,
Yep, there it is.
see that little bump right there? That little raised spot right there?
About 100 thousandths above the extractor groove.
Come on, focus. Okay. So now you can kind of see it. This is a 257 Weatherby case that I have in my hand. Last week I showed the other end of it, but this is one of the reasons I keep it around. Is you can see, if I wasn't sitting here jerking around all over the place and could hold that steady, you can see the definite raised part here. So what we're talking about by head spacing, for those of you who don't know what head spacing means. Head spacing is the distance between the bolt face and the bolt. That's the short answer. So not enough head space, you're going to crush your cartridge as you try and close the bolt. Too much head space, and either the firing pin's going to barely make contact with the primer, or lots of other issues. One of which is the cartridge actually slams back into the bolt upon ignition because the pin hits the primer with enough force to actually ignite the primer. So, I mean, if you get say you buy a used rifle and you put factory ammunition in it and you've got nothing but light primer strikes, possibility of a head spacing issue there. There's other issues too, but regardless, you want to get that puppy into a gunsmith to have that checked with proper tools, and also that they can tear the bolt apart and make sure that the firing pin's actually functioning like it's supposed to, because that's another problem you could have. The spring could be bad for the firing pin, or it could be all gummed up, and all sorts of issues there. But kind of the basic definition of head spacing. I'm not going to go into the really long. So, but to give you an idea, so we have our belted magnums, which head space off of the belt. So what that means is that's actually in the chamber to stop here, and that's what it uses for head spacing. So that's the stopping point. Versus most of your normal cartridges, which actually usually head space off the shoulder. So when it comes into the chamber, it hits the taper in the chamber and then stops. So that's kind of the interesting thing there. Now, handgun rounds, like this one here, actually head space off the mouth.
Semi-automatic handgun rounds.
Yep. This one here is a 9mm Parabellum, or 9mm Luger. And so it head spaces off of right here. That's why if you do the plunk test, sometimes they don't fit because you didn't move the bell back in enough. So, or if it drops in too far, then you over adjusted on your crimped it too much and squished it. So, Jason, what's one of your favorite toys head space off of? Your 500.
Yes.
Yes. That is not the answer I was looking for. What does it use for head spacing?
Okay. The rim.
Correct.
Very good.
That is your third common option for, well, I suppose fourth. Because you've got your mouth, you've got your belt, you've got your neck and shoulder area. Well, more shoulder than neck. And then you've got your rimmed. So like 41, 44, 357, 38, 44 special.
45 long cold, 45 cold.
Aha! Guess what? There's no
There
such
is. You're right.
no such thing as a 45 long colt.
Right. My mistake. Force of habit. But anyway, it head spaces off the rim. 30-30 also head spaces off the rim. But us as reloaders have a huge advantage when it comes to that issue. And that is the fact that we can actually head space those tapered cartridges like the 30-30. We can actually set it up and head space off the shoulder if we so choose. With the understanding that you're affecting the fit of the cartridge in the chamber. If you have it slightly large, you may not get that gun to go into battery.
So what if I buy brand new brass, Jim? Especially in like a rimmed or a belted Magnum.
Okay. What about it?
How do I need to size that to
You
get
should
it?
size it just like regular reloading die with lubricant.
Okay.
Or in the cases of the carbide walls and in the carbide dies, as they call it, straight wall cases, you just resize it as normal. Yes, do I resize my factory brass? You bet I do. Especially when they mishandle a few of those cases and you get a case mouth that looks a little bit like a battered up letter D.
Yeah, they tend not to seat so well.
Right. But anyway, that's how we handle new brass. Now, Starline, I've bought new brass from them a few times. It's good stuff, but I still resize it anyway. And I bought some 357 from them, as a matter of fact. Excuse me. And the cases were all in pretty good shape, but I still resized them simply because I wanted to know what kind of fit I was going to get for my bullets.
Exactly. All right. So Orion Fixer in the chat says, I have a ton of brass that says 45 LC. What does that stand for then? In regards to our 45 long Colt. More than likely, if that's the only stamping on it, it is Lake City brass. But without seeing the head stamp, I can't say for sure. So, hey, we got a whole bunch of people that hopped over, and including Johnny from Johnny's Reloading Bench. Thanks and welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Johnny.
So,
Here's Johnny.
appreciate all the new joiners. So, we're kind of answering some questions from the chat tonight, and we've a couple others. So, we were talking about burn rates and barrel lengths a little earlier. Just got done talking about our cartridge corner, which was 270 Weatherby Magnum. And then from that led into belted magnums, and we started talking about head spacing and that fun stuff. So our first question for the night, well, not really, but
I have a question,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Would you say that head spacing, basically, to really summarize it very, very tightly, it's essentially the way the cartridge fits in the chamber when the bolt is closed?
That's basically it, yeah.
Thank you.
So this one comes from John, and he says, I just bought a used like new Gen 1 TC contender, Thompson Center contender. I sold the 223 barrel that came with it to buy a 730 Waters barrel. I think this cartridge would be great for deer. My question is about forming cases. I know I can take 30-30 cases and resize with the 730 dies and fire a light charge bullet to blow out the shoulder. However, I thought I heard Jim say that there is a technique that doesn't require sending a bullet down the barrel. I just can't remember what he said. Did it involve unique and a wax plug? Thanks, John.
Actually, that suggestion, the wax plug part of the suggestion, came from one of our hosts right here, the guy wearing a blue t-shirt.
Who?
You.
Oh, yeah.
You bum. And actually, all I did was, I forget what the listener's name is that asked the question. And I don't have to scroll down for that. But anyway, all I do is I just simply got an old candle from my wife. And I literally take the case and shove it into the outside wall of the candle, as far as my hands can shove it. And when I turn around and I break it off like so, and now I have a nice wax plug down inside my case neck. Well, underneath of that, of course, I have I think it was 15, wound up settling on 15 grains of unique to force enough pressure to blow out the shoulder for the 280 Remington Ackley Improved. So yes, John, I was using Unique. 15 grains is what I worked it up to. I was having issues because I was afraid of using so much Unique in the case. But if you don't use enough in Unique, the case simply won't expand at the shoulder. And that 730 Waters case, or is it 730 Waters? Yes, that's another one of the cases that can benefit from head spacing up on the shoulder, John, instead of head spacing it off the rim like normal. But remember, that ammo probably won't fit your neighbor's gun if he happens to come up with a 730 Waters. Anyway, that's why I use wax plugs. Mike had the suggestion. The reason why I used wax plug was Mike's suggestion, yes. But the second reason I used it was to round count, to hold my round count down. That was 250 rounds that didn't have to go through my gun because I didn't want that much wasted ammo going through the barrel of the rifle. Essentially, I have now about 150 rounds through that rifle as opposed to 400 rounds. 400 rounds to 250 rounds would have been to blow out the shoulders, to fire form it to the case, fire form the case to the chamber. It would have to be added onto the round count. And you know, when you're looking at only 3,000 rounds for a barrel, the barrel has roughly 3,000 rounds. At 250 rounds, that's almost 10%.
So anybody who wants to know more about the 730 Waters, if you go back and listen to episode 229, that was in the cartridge corner. So
You still awake, Sharonda?
Yep.
Are you learning anything, ma'am?
Yep. I'm taking a bunch of notes.
Good on you.
So Ryan07962 in the chat wants to know, what is the highest velocity you would feel comfortable shooting a powder-coated cast bullet at? Well, that is going to be dependent on a couple of things. Are we shooting it out of a handgun or out of a rifle?
So I responded by, you can basically use plated load data when you're using the powder coated.
Yep.
You get into a little bit more iffy circumstances when you start loading that in a rifle, though.
Right.
One of the really nice things with powder coating is you don't really need to use a gas check, though. So,
kinda, yes, no, depending on how fast you're pushing it. He said he's using his 300 Blackout. Travis, weren't you just loading up some of Acme's in yours? I know Matt was. How fast was he pushing?
yeah, I cast and powder coat for my 300
Yeah.
Blackout. So, subsonic, sonic rounds. What are you loading? Because if you're doing subsonic, you have no issues. I load 153 grain, I believe is what it is. And I have it all written down, but I know I've had zero leading, no issues whatsoever. I call it the powder coating the poor man's jacket. I know since we got Johnny in the chat, he's an expert on powder coating.
JH586 said he shot powder coated gas checked bullets out of his 35 rem up to 2150. So I was just looking back at Matt's, and Matt was doing his 212 grains. The fastest he pushed him was 1350, but he was trying for slower speeds. So the thing you're going to run into is how good is your powder coating? Ultimately, first and foremost. And if you're pushing them fast enough, you're going to want that gas check to give you that extra protection for that base of the bullet, so it's not getting deformed. Because ultimately, that's kind of one of those things that really causes gas cutting, is when you have a hot charge slams into the back of that softer bullet and deforms it instead of getting your proper seal against the rifling. So whereas the gas check kind of evens that force out a little better and kind of helps. So the other thing that's going to make a difference is your lead hardness. So, I mean, you could powder coat a straight pure lead bullet, throw it in your firearm, but because it's so soft, it's still going to distort. So, and you may get some leading and gas cutting. So
That is a huge thing you just said there, Mike. The hardness of your lead. I'm trying to find my notes on my velocities on my 300 blackout. I was thinking off the top of my head, I was around 22-ish, but no gas check or nothing.
I haven't really seen anybody that's pushing them faster than, I think I've seen some 308s at about 25, which is really hauling for, 180 grain 308 out of a 16-inch barrel. But they were also gas checked, so I don't know. They were a Lyman number 2 alloy, and then they were gas checked and then powder coated. So I don't really, I mean, if you're trying for subsonic with that 300 blackout, you're not going to have a concern. So, and even if you're pushing it, I don't know. I don't know if you're going to really push it hard enough that you're going to have to seriously worry. So, I mean, if you're within doubt, MCK just said, he said leave 55 grain, 18 to 20 BHN, 22 to 2400 feet per second. No leading in a decent group. So that kind of gives you an idea of that. 18 to 20 BHN is, Jim, what's BHN stand for?
Brinell hardness number.
So, Jim, you want to just said what you just said in the chat?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
BHN stands for Brinell hardness number. And what I said in the chat, what Mike's talking about, I had my son's Winchester 1895 in 30-30, and I decided to experiment with some 308 bullets in it. 180 grain cast bullets that I made up myself. Lyman number 2 alloy, thereabouts, hard wheel weights basically. And I drove those bullets as fast as 2,200 feet per second using liquid ALOX. What you have to do, guys, you have to size it, or you have to put the liquid ALOX on, size them, then lube the bullet again, because when you run it through this lubricator sizer, the push-through system that Lee has, When you do that, you have to take and relubricate that band, the driving bands. But anyway, went clear up to 2,200 feet per second, and the rifle came up as clean as the day it was made. However, the real problem was we couldn't keep our hits on paper. 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper at 100 yards. We couldn't keep all 5 rounds on one sheet. So it's like you can't miss fast enough to kill anything. You can't miss anything fast enough to punch a hole in the paper. So, you know, you had to be a little bit more sensible. But this was with my antiquated, dilapidated, out of date, and outmoded liquid ALOC system.
So maybe if you had a powder coated, you had a better group.
Could be. Troublemaker.
Hey, somebody's got to.
Jim, with all the guys from Johnny's Reloading Bench in the chat, I'm going to say you're probably outnumbered. So you might want to keep the Liquid ALOC's comments down tonight.
I don't care. I don't care. I've gone out on the reloading edge. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. I think I stepped on you.
I was going to say, I think that is just going to be one of those 9 versus 40 versus 45 conversations for till the end of time. So
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Guys, I've done my share of experimenting with reloading. I mean, I've taken 357 Magnum ammo, put a 210 grain bullet in it. Well, what I didn't tell you was I scooped the case right full of powder. Don't even know to this day, how much powder I got in that case. And I put that 210 grain bullet. Jason knows about those bullets. And it was 2,400. It was more than a maximum charge, but I put it in there and I put it right through that container. Felt like a 44 Magnum going off.
So Vanessa Kitty asked in the chat, what do you add to your lead to bring up the hardness number? So there's a couple of things.
Travis, you're muted.
I was gonna say antimony, but go ahead, Mike, and wasn't trying to step on you.
No, I was going to ask you guys. So
I can tell you off the top of my head, alignment number 2 is kind of a very popular alloy to use, and that's 90% lead, 5% tin, and 5% antimony. And your Burnell hardness on that, I think, is roughly 15.
15 to 17. That's right, Travis.
Okay.
Now the thing is,
Will, just regular old will weight. If I remember, that's about 10 on the Burnell hardness chart.
maybe 12 if it depends.
That's one that is nice if a guy, you used to could go down to the local tire shop and just get all clip-on will weights, melt that down and not have to mix anything. But with it getting harder and harder to get, us casters are finding we have to make our own, in most cases, make our own alloys if we're after a certain Burnell hardness.
Correct. But anyway, so you can buy, Vanessa Kitty, you can buy the various ingredients you want, or you can buy Lyman number 2 alloy directly from a company called Rotometals. You can buy the alloy, you can buy the mixture, the elements that you need, the antimony or tin. Tin is roughly, I think it was $15 a pound last time I heard, but that was several years ago. But, you know, you're working with a hot pot of material. If you would want to take and keep your quantity small. If you got a 20-pound pot, I wouldn't work with more than 10 pounds at a time, because you're talking 9 pounds of lead, chemically pure lead, half pound of antimony, half pound of tin. That'll give you a pot full that's got 10 pounds in it. That should give you 10 pounds of Lyman number 2 alloy. It's considered pretty much a universal alloy. Isn't that right, Travis?
Yes. And I did just want to correct something. I found my notes. I said earlier I pushed my cast 153 grain at 22. It looks like I was pushing that at about 1850. No gas check, just powder coated. That's an NOE mold too. I really like the NOE mold for 300 blackout. But I do find the nice thing, we can kind of cheat. I often would just use wheel weight for my 300 blackout and just powder coat it and have no issues with that. I didn't need to make up any special Bernal hardness for that. The powder coating kind of really helped out with being. I'm a cheapskate when it comes to my lead.
Well, that's the point, is to try and keep it cost efficient. So, and Rotometals isn't the only supplier out there. There are others. You may have some local ones too. So just to kind of toss that out there.
Yeah, Rotometals is really good, but they are expensive.
They can be, especially for shipping, if you
Yeah.
live on one side of the country. So
One time I wanted to buy a pallet of lead from them. I can't remember what their pallet was, 2,000 pounds, but it was quite pricey. And you could go down to your local scrapyard, and usually they're more than happy to sell you the lead that they have.
Not always. Sometimes they're under contract to sell it to us elsewhere.
Mhm.
I've run into that.
Yeah, that's what happened with I'm sure that's what happened to a lot of us with these local tire shops. They went under contract with selling their lead back to certain places and became unavailable for us.
Well, then now they're also using zinc for wheel weights, and they're also using steel.
Mhm.
Well, you haven't lived until you feel your side cutters clamp into a piece of steel.
That's why I use a magnet on them to find them first.
Yeah, but you'll get all those clip-ons that way too, though.
You just got to learn how to aim.
I actually just melt up some lead that I have. I don't usually pour all the lead out of my pot, out of my big melting pot outside. I keep some just lead in there, and I bring that up to temperature, and then what's that?
For a snack?
And then I just put in handfuls at a time of just, random stuff, clip-ons. I don't care if there's zinc or steel in them. I don't separate them. I just mix them up, and once the lead melts, I just start scooping that out because I find it a real pain to have to take clippers to every piece. Eventually you get the calibrated eyeball, and you can pretty well just start picking out without having to use clippers on them. But then you just throw everything else that you think is lead in there, and what doesn't melt, you just hurry and scrape it off so you don't melt any zinc or something in there.
I'm going to have to remember that trick, Travis, about not emptying my lead pot, because the last time I started with a batch of wheel weights that I bought from some guy that had a bunch, I burned up at least 15 pounds of propane and didn't get a damn drop because it was all zinc.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing too, Jim. I leave about an inch or two, in the bottom of my pot, and once it comes up quicker than trying to heat all that empty space of your clip-ons and stuff.
You got a good point, Travis.
And lead's got a lower melting temperature than zinc, so that's why that works.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of just I need to get a thermometer, but I just kind of just go by sight now, and I know my temperature's not hot enough to melt the zinc as quickly, so I'm okay just throwing everything in my melting pot and then just mixing it in. And once you get a bunch of melted lead in there, when you put in another handful, the lead melts pretty quick, and you can just scoop out all the extras and not really have too much of a concern.
This might be a little unrelated, but it's kind of weird. seeing steel floating on something, steel clips, nails, valve stems, brass, when the rubber burns away, the brass on all that strange metal, off brand or off alloy or whatever you want to call it, even zinc wheel weights, they'll float on the lead.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling too when you're looking down at your pot and it doesn't look like it's going to weigh that much, but you go to pick up the pot and you're all, every time I do it, I'm surprised at how heavy that thing is.
Well, Travis, I have a pot that holds 150 pounds. I don't even try to pick it up.
Oh, wow.
It's made out of a piece of 10-inch steel casing. 1/4-inch steel butt plate on the bottom. Welded
Nice.
it up myself. But anyway, that's a casting issue. That's one of the rabbit holes we promised the listeners to go down.
Yeah, with the temperature changing, we'll be going into casting soon. So November sometime, I'm sure we'll start off with that.
That's good. I got my big oven finished up. I'm ready for the casting and reloading season.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about slugging barrels and all the rest of that when we get to that point too. Fat Alva's has kind of got one of those issues that a lot of people are running across now. Don't bother with wheel weights anymore. Too much crap in them now, which is true. I mean,
it's expensive, but one of the best sources for decent lead is eBay. Fishing sinkers. Because the guys that are selling it know exactly what they've got. They're selling it 1 and 2 pound bars, stuff like that. And it's all right, unless you get somebody disreputable, and then you report them to eBay. But anyway, it's all right. It's just fishing sinkers. And if it's pure lead, you just alloy it up.
Jim, Vanessa wants to know how much fuel is used to melt 150 pounds of lead.
Usually it's about 10 pounds of propane. And that's to fill a pot. What I was talking about, Miss Kitty, was I started melting wheel weights that I didn't realize at the time. I should have checked them. That were zinc. So I've got to get all that heated back up and get it out of my pot. And then after that, I'm going to start remembering Travis's trick that I should have remembered myself because I've used it before, where you leave a certain amount of lead in the bottom of the pot and melt it down because it makes it easier to melt the next batch.
Well, here's another good tip on that. If you have a Lee, like a bottom pour lead pot, for filling up your molds, don't run them out completely. When you run them out, all the contaminants float on top of your lead.
Right.
Most of them. So when you run your pot completely out, you're just taking all the contaminants that could be on top, and you could plug up your spout. So you always keep some lead in your pots.
Well, what Travis is talking about, the bottom pour spout, it's got a hole in the bottom of it with a steel pin that's weighted, and it drives down at an angle and plugs that, metal to metal seal on the bottom of that pot. Well, the thing is, it's about a 3/32 of an inch diameter hole at the bottom. So you got a small stream of lead. It's not very hard for a wheel weight or metal clip, or we'll say, something like that, to the rust off of a steel clip or the rust off the walls of the pot. You get enough of that put together in one spot, and as you're getting down to the bottom, you'll suck that piece of rust right into that orifice. That clogs your pot. And it's a bear to get it open, too.
Yeah, Lees are known for dripping anyway, so
Yes,
why
they
add
are.
to them?
Why add to the aggravation is right.
So are you scoop with that big pot you have, are you using a ladle to scoop out and make ingots?
Absolutely, yes. I have a 2-pound ladle. And also I went to, I don't remember if it was Dollar General or Dollar Tree. I think it was Dollar Tree. I went and bought regular full-size muffin pans, and I would get one of those ingots. It's 2-pound ingot, 2 1/4 pounds of lead at one time. So one ladle gives me one muffin pan, one muffin
One muffin.
cavity. Yeah, one muffin of lead. Exactly right. So I have to take and drop out 24 pounds, pull the 24 pounds of lead out to fill up a muffin pan. And even at 24 pounds of lead in a muffin pan, that's roughly 25 pounds. That's a good bit of weight, especially with if it's blistering hot. This is why I used to use a steel trailer. Now I'm going to have to figure something else out to keep from burning up my floor or whatever. No, you're not going to burn up concrete floor, but just someplace that's heat proof. Wire rack of some kind. Maybe a piece of sheet metal, thick sheet metal on a wooden bench.
I heard if you use that particle board, that's just awesome to use.
Really? You tell you do that and you tell us how it goes.
Look, Mom, it's a giant candle.
I've burned wooden floors under that.
Yep. So Vanessa wants to know what type of muffin pans. Best thing to do, hop over to your local thrift store. Just get regular, the 6-hole, or if you want smaller, you can go with the little mini muffin pans.
Yep, that'll give you a pound of lead.
So,
as I said, I bought mine, I believe, in the Dollar Tree.
Yep. The cast iron cornbread pans are also fun to use. They've got they actually look like little ears of corn. Those work.
Yeah, the cast iron stuff is probably the best way of going, but there is that extra cost.
And they're getting harder and harder to find.
But like Mike said, if you can find them at yard sales or thrift stores, grab them.
Yeah. Get them for, you get them at a garage sale because they're all scratched up. The nice fancy coating's gone. You can pick them up at garage sale for $0.25, 50 cents. Get them at a thrift store for $1. And it doesn't matter that the coating's off because you're not eating out of them. So
you're going to burn the coating off anyway.
Exactly.
Heck, one day, Mike, we should show those.
Yeah,
really
I was thinking about
molds.
that. They're buried.
Yeah, I made some molds for Mike and I one time. Had some 1/4-inch angle iron, and I forget how many. It's hard to explain, but you basically have the angle up in a V shape, and there's like 3 or 4 of them side by side, and with some handles on there, and we could make our ingots right out of that.
Yep.
And they just cost scrap material and some time.
Yep. So, there's all sorts of different things you can do. So, but we'll get into that a little later.
Oh, ruin the fun.
We're going to get serious into that. So,
I know somebody who wants to learn to cast.
Who's that?
He's wearing a blue t-shirt tonight.
Yeah, Mike, you haven't done any casting yet?
What?
You haven't done any casting yet?
Maybe not. I have, but I haven't. I've not casted anything as far as bullets, but we used to make our own lead sinkers.
Do you have a lead pot for melting in?
Maybe.
Like
let's see here. Where'd that sucker go? I don't see it. So, there. I've got this one.
That's a ladle feed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't see the other box.
You got a bottom pour though.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 or 20 pounder. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I highly suggest getting a bottom pour.
So yeah, definitely. We used to cast sinkers and jigs. So actually, for that Lyman pot that I pulled out, that's the one that I want to build a PID for. So
Well, we got all the celebrities in the chat tonight. We got
I know.
Johnny's Reloading Bench. We got Bacon over there.
Right? It's a huge party in there tonight. It's awesome.
So everybody in the chat should go over and give this a thumbs up then. We only got a couple of thumbs up for this video.
Well, one of the things I'd like to point out is we've already got a couple people talking about getting started. One of the things I'd like to point out is make sure you use your PPE, personal protection and protective equipment.
Your what?
Exactly.
I wasn't going to start that mess tonight, Jason. I swear to God I wasn't.
We'll get into that later. All right. So Casey wants to know, is Norma custom brass worth the money, and what is everybody's favorite brass to use? I guess it depends on what you're loading for. I don't know. I mean, Norma's not the best out there, but it's not the worst. So,
As far as reputation goes, and I've never used a round of it, the reputation is, I hear the best there is Lapua brass. Never, ever, ever do I hear about anything bad about Lapua brass.
And Jeremy Rowland, when he was with us, did a test on 308 brass, which the results are still on the Reloading Podcast Facebook page, comparing Lapua and Peterson and Norma and Winchester and a couple others I don't remember. So
Bacon got you good, Jason.
I like your response, Jason. You got to check out the chat. So, hey, so anybody who's hearing the sound of our voice but not actually seeing what we're talking about, if you go to our YouTube channel, then you can actually see, because we live broadcast this every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, and we have a live chat going on. So if you watch the videos later, you'll actually see the live chat as it's appearing during the show. So you can kind of see all the inside jokes and everything else that we're talking about. So.
Jason, that is just wrong.
You think so?
And may cause some chafing. Yeah, Starline's decent, but honestly, go with Lapua and be done with it, or the Peterson. So I know Peterson 30-06 is pretty decent. So, but at any rate, anybody got any shout outs tonight?
I think we already did one to Chris Sharp, didn't we, Jason?
Yep.
You guys don't forget to go back and roast Phil for his poor truck.
We should have a moment of silence for the truck.
All done.
Yep. Oh, good grief. So, yeah, you guys got to watch the video on this one and check out the chat. It's hilarious. So, yeah, coming up, we are going to do some serious time into casting. We're going to go down that rabbit hole, and we're going to stay down that rabbit hole for a few weeks. Working on getting some interviews set up for the next couple of weeks. So, Travis and I are trying to get together with with Starline to do a Starline interview. That's not going to be a live one. What that one will be is Travis and I doing, and then we actually play it during the live podcast. I wanted to say hi to Chris's wife. Thanks for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, and you're welcome back anytime.
Every time.
Yeah, every time. So, and grateful to Johnny's Reload Bench for giving us a shout out and a plug after he was done with his live chat and all the people hanging over here. So, we love the live chat because we get not only to interact but we don't know everything. So we also get good input. We get good questions. So. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Mrs. Sharp, Chris mentioned buying a new safe and storing it at her friend's house. So you couldn't look in it. So I don't know what that's about. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to say about that. Sorry, Chris.
Well, that's because he wanted to take and have a surprise for her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wanted to hide all the guns that he's buying for her
Hmm.
in her safe.
Yeah, way to ruin the surprise, Jason.
Sorry.
Like hell. You're welcome, Chris. Anytime we keep this up, he won't be back. He won't be able to. He won't survive.
He'll be
If it
grounded.
makes him feel better, I can say I actually have a safe at another house too.
Mike, you're muted.
See, I have a beautiful thing. I have teenage boys. So, oh, that's the kid's gun.
There you go.
So,
You got to damn you, Jason.
ha ha, suckers.
Well, in my defense, I won most of mine. So if I slide one in there, he'll just think I won it. So
There you go.
Don't tell.
Exactly. So, yeah, great to have all the regulars with tonight, and a couple of new people. Welcome. Thanks again, Johnny, for getting the word out. Grateful for all the publicity we get from everybody, and so on that note, I want to take time to thank our sponsor, Patriot Patch Company. Bandwidth sponsor. Make sure you check them out, patriotpatch.co. If you join the patch of the month, not only do you get an awesome morale patch, but you get a sweet sticker to go with it. So you can have multiple displays. They also have a lot of other cool things. They've got just a couple of so this is some of the older patch of the month. Also, an important one, Invest Precious Metals, Circle of Life.
That's my favorite one right there.
That is. So it's awesome. Really cool stuff that Jake and Ryan are doing over there. Make sure you check them out. So also want to take time to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out every week. I got together with Sean over the week, got the RSS feed issue fixed. And now, for those of you who are deranged or slightly off kilter or have nothing better to do than torture yourselves, you can get all of the episodes back to episode 02. 001 was really crappy and we pulled it. Never to be aired again. But you can now, on podcasts, get them all the way back to 002. So you can hear Jim and I in the beginning, and then when Jason joined and everybody else has joined over time. So a lot of cool topics that we've covered back then. And, different information because, it's not always the same information. We've learned as we've been doing this as well. So,
Hey, Sharinda, can you do us a favor and go back to start at episode 002 and listen through all of them, make sure all the audio's good and all the information's there for us?
Oh, you
Don't do
are
it.
mean.
don't do it.
Don't do it. You're mean, Travis. You're mean. I
I
thought you
actually
liked it.
can't do that because I listen to podcasts and audiobooks on my commute at work, so I can throw that into the rotation.
Hey, I listen to probably 9 hours of podcasts a day myself. And I have listened from episode 001. I've listened to before. Like I've told Jim before, I've listened before 001.
Reloading Radio. So,
Yep, on the Gun Rights Radio Network.
squeaky chair.
That was me. I'm rocking and it ain't squeaking.
Well, now we don't have the squeaky chair. We've got the squeaky
Right.
smoke detector.
I'll
Sure.
fix it next week. I mean,
Cheers.
on here next week.
Phil's chair is squeaking. Phil's chair squeaks.
So, Johnny just kind of said a lot of the same thing that we were talking about where from when we started. Johnny said, guy who made my first video was a terrible reloader that didn't know squat. A lot of us that are doing this got into it to learn more. As you go through, you'll listen to different hosts that joined us, one of which was Trevor from Slamfire Radio. One of the main reasons he joined isn't because he had more time to spend on things. It's because he wanted to learn how to reload. So he joined us, and as he was asking questions as a new reloader and also adding to the podcast. So, but yeah, there is a crap ton of content out there if you want to look for it. Video, audio, not just ours. Johnny's Reloading Bench is a great place to go. Travis, where else can people go for awesome reloading content?
They can go to the Reloaders Network.
Yes, they can.
Are we posting much? Are we posting much over there lately?
No, I haven't had time to really dive in there, so that's on the project list for soon.
Travis, why don't you do it?
Jim, I can barely turn this computer on. You think I'm going to go start putting stuff on different platforms?
Look at Jason. He knew I was setting you up. Oh, I'm not too far ahead of you, Travis.
I am hoping to post more video reviews. I got some stuff lined up. I just been working, just now getting off of working a lot of hours and stuff. So I'm hoping to get some cool reviews out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know we do. Jim and I both have some. Jim's got the Anil Ease video out there. I've got the Little Annie review out there. So guys who are interested in checking out some Anilers can go and check those videos out. I've got a couple other ones from Whedon Gunworks. I'm not sure. I know there's a couple other videos out there, but go scroll through our feed and see some of our review stuff and just check those out because hopefully we'll be doing some more.
Yeah. So I've got some planned in the future. The kids are finally into a schedule now between work and the fire department and fire department training. So now I can start planning some stuff. So that's good. Loads of Bacon said he's got 90 channels posting on the Reloaders Network. So make sure you check that out. So
I believe the Reloaders Network's got a good Instagram page too.
Yep. So Instagrams are becoming a hot place for the reloading community nowadays. So there's quite a few. If you just go to our page on Instagram, you're going to see interactions with a lot of different companies and a lot of different places. So you're gonna get it's a good starting point. So as well as the Reloaders Network. So, but if you have questions, comments, concerns, you can send those to Reloading Podcast reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. I am so screwed if I ever get to be as old as Jim. I'm just gonna walk around going. At any rate, so you can also send us a text message 608-467-0308. Leave us a voicemail 608-467-0308. We haven't had any voicemails in a while, but we used to actually play them on the air. So if you want to listen, or if you want to make it on the podcast, leave us a voicemail. If you have a question you need answered right away, swing over to the Facebooks or MeWe and look for the Reloading Room. Great place to go. Lots of knowledge, especially the Facebook one that's been around for 7, 8, 10, 20, 30, 500 years. No, sorry. But lots of questions asked. So you can use the search feature and, after you join and go through. We've got the Reloading Podcast page. We've got the Reloading Podcast group on Facebook. We have the Reloading Podcast group on MeWe. Swing by, check us out. So if you've got reloading stuff you want to sell, as long as it doesn't require 4473, head over to MeWe and
TRR buy and sell.
yep, TR buy and sell, or in the Reloading Podcast group on MeWe, you can sell stuff too.
Yeah,
In the
I need
chat.
you guys to all get over there and start selling some stuff because I'm a sucker for deals.
Ooh.
I check that out daily and trying to see what I can buy.
So, quick last question. Chico Wise wanted to know, is lead going to be an easy find for you in your area? Asking for a friend for when I start casting. Well, I have 2 5-gallon buckets of wheel weights over there that I've been collecting. I've got a bunch of other lead laying around. So I've been collecting as I go. But yeah, actually, where I'm at, you can actually not a bad option to find some. So yeah. So
Well,
I don't think that's going to happen.
I was going to do the math for you, Mike. You might get 100, let's say 100, get 125 pounds of mix times 7,000. Divide that by, let's just say, divide that by 158 grain for 35 caliber. That 2 buckets of wheel weights, if all goes well, and you only get about 125 pounds of usable material, he's got roughly 150, 160, maybe 200 pounds of material. So that's a pretty serious loss. But anyway, you get roughly 5,500 bullets out of 2 buckets of wheel weights.
So, but I've got other lead too, and then I've got some people that are sitting on some for me when I get into it. So, because I don't have a lot of storage currently. My wife has this stupid rule about how I have to be able to park her car in the garage. So, but anyway, so on that note, thank you to everybody that contacts us with questions, comments, concerns. Thank you to everybody who swings over to firearmsradio.tv and hits up the affiliate links for Brownells and Amazon. And a special thank you to all of our Patreons. And on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Get out and do some powder coating.
Don't forget to share the Women's Reload 2 Facebook page. Yay, I actually remembered it.
There you go. Women Reload 2, exclamation point. And take somebody shooting. Get out, do some shooting yourself. Reload some ammo. Do some brass prep. Do it all.
Good night, everyone.